Hello, everybody, and welcome to our career day. If you haven't joined a session previously, welcome to your first session, or if you have, welcome back. I'm sure those of you who are with us have been waiting for this one and are joining in excitement to hear more about the IRBA or IRBA. And yeah, it's my privilege to welcome IRBA to our Career Day lineup. It's the first time you guys are with us, so wonderful having you with us. And we look forward to hearing more from you. As an introduction, we have two members from IRBA with us. There's Akira and there's Medea, both from the Education and Transformation Unit. And we really are privileged and looking forward to having you guys share with us today. So I'm going to hand over to you to introduce yourselves more fully, because I'm sure it's not only me, but everybody would like to know exactly your role, and then obviously to hear more about what you've got to tell us today. So over to you. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Jonathan, for that warm welcome. It's an absolute pleasure to have the opportunity to present to you guys today. I actually didn't know it was our first presentation, so all the more exciting for myself and you guys. All right, so my name is Zakira. I am an inspector in the Education and Transformation Department, an ADP inspector specifically. So that's the Audit Development Program, which I'm going to go into a lot of detail explaining to you today. Some background about myself. I am a qualified chartered accountant. I am also a registered auditor. I'm going to give my age away a little bit. I have probably about over 13 years of experience within the practice and out as well. Yeah, that's just a very high level overview of myself. So I'll be speaking to you guys today about the ADP program, what this means for you, how to become a registered auditor, and I'll give you a little bit of insight as well about the IRBA. Before I go into the depth of the presentation, I do want to take a short opportunity to let my co-presenter or my co-worker, Mahdia, just give a short introduction about herself, because she is the brains and connection to all of these sessions. So I'll just give her a minute to introduce herself, Mahdia.
Thank you so much, Zakira. Good afternoon, everybody. It's really such a privilege to be here with you today. Like Zakira said, it's our first time here with you, and we're really excited to be joining you. My name is Mahdia. I'm a professional manager in the Education and Transformation team. And yeah, we're happy to engage with you and take your questions on anything in the auditing profession that's on your mind. Thank you.
Thanks, Mahdia. Okay, so just a little bit of logistics of how this presentation will work. I will be giving you guys quite an in-depth presentation about the IRBA and how you become an RA. I have reserved some time at the end of the session for Q&A. I do prefer that if you have any questions, please pop them into the chat pod. Alternatively, you can write them down on a piece of paper and you can ask them to me directly at the end of the session, just to make sure that we have a fluent session and in the interest of time. All right, so let's get straight into it. Okay, so for the presentation, guys, I'm just going to put my camera off. I'll put it back on again during the Q&A session, just so that we can save bandwidth and we don't have any technical issues. All right, there we go. Okay, so what are we going to be covering in today's session? Firstly, I'm going to speak to you guys a little bit about the IRBA. So here, I want to put you guys into perspective about who we are, what we do, how are we structured, just to give you some understanding about this. Then I'm going to move on to talking about the auditing career path. And this is very closely linked to, you're going to hear me refer to the ADP. That stands for the Audit Development Program. That's the program that takes you from your chartered accounting qualification to your RA designation. And we'll go into quite a lot of depth into that aspect. Then I'm going to navigate through the IRBA website with you. I want to show you some cool things that may be very relevant to your careers and to your studies as well, and some good midnight reading whenever you need that. And then lastly, we'll end off with some Q&A. And before I get into the detail, I just want to give you guys or conceptualize the aspect of meeting with us today. Okay, so you guys are in your university studies at the moment. You know, you're still pursuing maybe your chartered accounting designations, whichever route you're possibly taking. And I'm here to speak to you about the RA qualification. So this is a specialized designation that builds on what you already have. So builds on your chartered accounting qualification. It's a little bit further down the road, you know, in your career path. And why I'm telling you this upfront is because my purpose here today is not to convince you to become an RA, even though I really do hope I convince you to become an RA, but really it is to plant the seed and to give you the information so that you can make correct career choices earlier on, so that you follow the correct paths for you to achieve what you're looking for later on in life. Okay, and like I said, this follows through into the RA designation. So bearing that in mind, let's learn a little bit about the IRBA, who we are, and what it is that we do. So the IRBA was actually formed by an act. This act is probably an act that you're very well aware of. You've probably covered this in your studies. It is the Auditing Profession Act. And this piece of legislation, you probably studied this in your undergrad degrees, definitely will be coming through in your postgrad CTAs and so forth. And this act actually governs the mandate of the IRBA and its effective functioning. So this mandate incorporates things like registration of auditors and auditing firms, the conduct of auditors, and the section you're probably most familiar with is the Section 45, reportable irregularities. I know that I was questioned extensively with these examples during my third year and fourth year at universities. And so this is the same act that actually created the IRBA and designed its mandate. So on the screen now, you're going to see a couple of different strategic functions that the IRBA has. And each of these functions is actually created, like I said, by the mandate of the APA Act. And I'm going to touch on each of those for you to let you know what each of these sections particularly do. All right, so the first one is the standard setting department. So this standard setting department, they are literally focused on generating or creating, developing, and maintaining internationally comparable ethics and auditing standards. And all of these functions, standard settings, our ET department, which is the education department that myself and Mahdia are from, inspections, investigations, disciplinary, all of these functions, all of it is designed to meet our one particular objective. And that one objective of the IRBA is simple: to protect the public interest by literally managing and regulating audits performed by our registered auditors. There is no registered auditor in South Africa that is an RA without being registered by us. And we have the ability to be able to discipline them, monitor their conduct, regulate their audits, make sure that they are complying to the standards as set by our standard setting department. So our first department, standards, they will design the development and maintenance of internationally comparable standards that the South African framework of profession complies with. Okay, so we also, something worth noting is that they also deal with, for example, the Code of Professional Conduct, which you would have also gone through in your studies. And I'll also show you where you can access this on the website a little bit later. All right, then we're moving on to the Education and Transformation Department. Like I said, the ET department, we have a couple of functions that we manage within this ambit. Sorry, I'm just going to ask if you can just make sure that your calls are muted, please. Thank you. So like I was saying, the Education and Transformation Department, we have a few functions that we manage within the strategic aspects of the IRBA. And this involves a couple of things. The first thing is we develop the competency requirements for registered auditors. So as you guys are studying, maybe you're on the ACCA route, maybe you're on the PSYCHO route, whatever it is, there are specific competencies that you are studying and trying to attain, both in your studies, and you will also do this in your training articles hereafter. Now, when you move from a CA to becoming a registered auditor, we also need to have specific competence requirements for those particular individuals. The Education and Transformation Department are the individuals that develop this competency framework and these requirements that all RAs need to have. At the moment, actually, Mahdia is in the process of updating our current competency framework to incorporate the new and awesome things that obviously come with the ever-changing world of auditing, like, IT in the audit, AI in the audit, what specific non-technical aspects we need to look at. So that's currently under review, but we developed the competency framework for registered auditors. The second function under education and transformation is we accredit professional bodies, thereby allowing those candidates to actually register on the ADP program to become an RA. Now, I know this might not make sense to you, but I will go into a lot more detail in the next slide about this. But just to give you some context about this function, a professional body, we have so many of them in South Africa. Actually, I think it's like over 35. So a professional body is a body like SAICA, ACCA, SAIPA, CYBER, SAIGA. I can go on, and the list is actually very long in South Africa. Now, in order for a member from any of these professional bodies to become a registered auditor, that body has to be accredited by the IRBA. So, for example, SAICA and ACCA currently are the two professional bodies that are accredited by us, and its members, ACCA and CASA, they can then register on the ADP program to then further and obtain the specialized designation of an RA. And I'll leave that here. It'll become a little bit more clear in the slides to come. And we also administer, like I mentioned, the audit development program. And again, this is a program that goes over a few months. We facilitate this between ourselves and the firms, and I will again go into a bit more detail there. All right, then our next department is our inspections department. So our inspections department, one of the mandates in the Act requires us to monitor the conduct of registered auditors and gives us the powers to take disciplinary action against RAs who have been found guilty. So our inspections department performs regular inspections on various audit firms as well as registered auditors throughout the year. So they have their own risk-based approach into how they select these firms and how they select these particular RAs. Sometimes we even get, references through our whistleblowing or our confidential line where people indicate maybe somebody is doing something wrong. They then get an inspection. If the inspection finds out that something is not particularly as we would expect it, this then moves to our investigations department, which then goes into a full-on investigation. And our investigations department, together with legal, will then decide whether disciplinary action is required against particular RAs who are found to be guilty of misconduct. So this is misconduct with regards to, the powers that an RA holds, and the powers that their signature has, and the impact that this has on the general public. And whether they've actually misused that in any way by non-compliance or even unethical behavior. All right. And then all of the other departments that you see there, the legal and support, the disciplinary, governance, finance, human resources, we are effectively, a proper, smooth running business. And all of those are the support functions that obviously manage us at the back end. All right. One thing just to highlight to you guys, I'm sure you're aware, the Auditing Profession Act was amended not so long ago. I'm also going to show you where you can access this on our website a little bit later. So in a nutshell, this is who the IRBA is. Our main objective is to protect the public in South Africa by regulating audits. And we do that and we follow through on our mandate by with each of these particular functions within the IRBA. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the IRBA in relation to the professional bodies that I mentioned in the previous slide. So like I said to you, we accredit the professional bodies, and what this means is an accredited professional bodies member can then register on the ADP program to become a registered auditor. So this is not just open to anyone specifically, it is really a specialized designation. The competency framework within the accredited professional bodies has to align to the competencies that we expect in our registered auditors. We then take them to quite a grueling process to ensure that these individuals are really competent from a technical aspect. They have integrity, they have great leadership skills, all of those things. And then we say, okay, you can become a registered auditor. So there are many accredited professional bodies, like I mentioned. At the moment, we only have 2 accredited by the IRBA, that is SICA and the ACCA. And essentially, this means only those 2 bodies members can become registered auditors within the South African framework at this point in time. There are a couple of other professional bodies that have applied for accreditation. I won't mention that here because they're quite early in the process, but it is a very, very grueling process to ensure that we are allowing the correct professional bodies to be accredited and then to obviously feed into the RA pipeline. Okay, so it's quite a niche designation to hold within that aspect. So where are you at this point in time? You are still in university. You are soon hopefully going to join an audit firm and do your articles within the auditing aspect. Once you obtain your articles and you are ready to be qualified as a chartered accountant under either CA or ACCA, SICA or ACCA, once you achieve that aspect, so your training articles are completed, you've got your board exams or your strategic modules are completed under ACCA, and you've been signed off, that's when you then move into the ambit of now considering, can I become or do I want to become a registered auditor? And you'll follow through on the ADP program to allow you to do that. And I'll show you the actual requirements that are allowed once you reach that point. There's quite a comprehensive slide coming up with regards to that. Okay, so that's the IRBA's role in relation to the professional bodies. Something to also know with regards to the professional bodies is that being accredited by the IRBA actually means that we have oversight over the SICA and the ACCA processes and as well as their respective programs from the university aspects into their strategic modules and board examinations, ITC and APC, and then also into your 3-year training contract. You don't see us maybe often enough because, like I said, we are a little bit further down the line in your career path, but you can rest assured that we are very involved within ensuring that your academic programs at university does eventually allow you to align to the RA designation, that your training programs are facilitated in proper environments to allow you to become a competent registered auditor one day. And then, of course, the strategic modules, APC, ITC, we also have oversight over that. All right, so we're quite involved within it. We monitor the professional bodies on an annual basis to ensure that the competencies and the achievements still align on a year-by-year basis. So it's a very competence-based aspect, and that is why we hold the specialized designation of RA in such high regard within most aspects. Okay. All right. So now let's get into the detail, the auditing career path. What you guys are actually here in this presentation for today is to understand, well, how do I then become a registered auditor? Before I even get to that point, I want to just give you a little bit of a definition of what the role of an auditor is and how this actually translates to me. It's probably not a definition you have seen before, but I'll explain to you why I think this is fitting. So firstly, the behaviors demonstrated by auditors, they have to be in line with the Code of Professional Conduct. You also need to adhere to the standards, and this in turn results in high quality financial reporting. This in turn leads to better information in the markets that investors use, that essentially then results in better financing decisions, lower financing costs, greater investor confidence within the country. And this obviously then supports the well-being of our economy, our economic growth. And of course, this means job creation. So why am I showing you this particular definition today? It's so broad and it's so large. How do you fit into this? And there's this particular reason for it. Throughout my traineeship, sometimes I felt like I was losing sight with regards to the value that I was actually contributing in pursuing this role within audit, within my CA, within my registered auditor aspirations. And I put this on here for you because I want you to see that every small stumbling block, every small action, every small piece of working paper, studies, whatever it is you're doing, all builds into such larger impacts that we often lose sight of. And this is actually the real impact of an auditor within an economy. You are literally promoting integrity in the financial reporting systems, creating confidence from such an aspect, both from a an internal aspect, in other words, just our country, and an international perspective of really investor confidence, growth within the economy, and so forth. I often get questions about, oh, is AI going to replace auditors? Is this not a redundant profession? And I can almost, I will put my head on the block for this. It's actually something that we speak a lot about within the larger aspects of audit committees, boards. We hold workshops with many individuals and international regulators as well. And AI definitely has a place within audit. You're going to find that in the next couple of years, things start changing quite drastically, but it's never going to replace the auditor, because one thing AI and machine learning will never be able to do is apply professional skepticism and professional judgment, even in that sense. So it's in actual sense, you should stop thinking about AI and technology as a replacement of this particular area, but rather from the aspect of collaboration with how we can make this better, more effective, more accurate, from that aspect, right? So please, whenever you're losing sight with regards to auditing, and trust me, I have been there and I understand where you are as a student. I know it's not always the favorite subject within, your majors and so forth, but when you see these things happen practically, or you'll see how all the subjects built in together, and whether it's tax, MANAC, finance, accounting, all of them infiltrate into auditing. It is the most comprehensive subject of all. And you will see this come through in practice when you get that, if you haven't got that exposure already. So remember that you have a much larger impact on the market as an auditor than just the ticking and bashing that you might be doing in a few years, like your first year or so within the auditing spec of things. Okay. All right. So why you should become a registered auditor, I think I gave you a lot of reasons just now in the previous slide, but in essence, you get to hold management accountable for their decisions. That's what you're there for. Regardless of whether you're a registered auditor or not, if you are just a trainee at a firm, or you're even in management, but maybe not yet a registered auditor, you still have a responsibility to actually hold management accountable. Your purpose there is also to protect the end user, the public, whoever it is that is using those reports. So you have that power. You are entrusted by shareholders and investors and the public. You increase investor confidence within South Africa. You get to act against corruption. It's not our purpose as auditors to go in and identify and look for fraud, but we often do find that. And you have an opportunity to act against these aspects. You get to be a change agent in our profession. And all of this inculcates in the one objective of protecting the financial interests of the South African public. And even though that seems broad, the South African public includes all of us, whether it's your family, whether it's your friends, whether it's yourself. You're going to be contributing to the same economy that you should be protecting in the first place. And it's an amazing aspect to be able to understand this and grasp your actual input and impact. And I hope that this will make for a fruitful career for you guys when you are in it. And I'm going to stop here. I'm going to give you guys just a little bit of a personal example for myself. We all in our careers go through points where we maybe ask ourselves, why did I do this? Oh my gosh, it's a lot of work, it's a lot of input. Like, I don't know if I'm seeing, the value of what I'm doing. And it just so happened that I was having this midlife crisis of mine around about 2019 or so. And I don't know whether it was God answering my prayers or my questions. And I hope I was not the reason that God decided, let me show you why you're important. And COVID happened. And who would have thought at that point in time that your CA designations, your RA designations, your auditors, what were we? We were in essential service at that time. We were an essential service, because the question I was asking myself too is, if the world was going to end tomorrow, who's going to call me? And they call you. That's exactly it. And that put things into a lot of perspective for me, because it was so essential at that point in time that we had these individuals with this kind of backing, this kind of integrity, and with this kind of passion to protect the public at large. So bear that in mind. I definitely haven't asked that question to myself since. All right. So now let's talk about, how do we become a registered auditor? Now, look, there is some steps and processes that we need to go through in order to achieve this. Again, I'm going to speak to you with a little bit of detail, but I'm not going to bombard you with the total detail or the intricacies of it, because it's going to lose you. Remember, my aim here today is to plant the seed into showing you that there is a career path for you available in audit. And if you wish to choose that path, how do you do so? What choices should you make for yourself now so that you don't have to end up further down in your career realizing, oh, I want to become a registered auditor, but I didn't do ABC. Now I got to take a few steps back in order to move a few steps forward again. So that's why this information is good for you at this point. So let's start off by understanding the requirements of becoming a auditor. So as I said earlier, firstly, you obviously need to belong to an accredited professional body. So in your academic program, in your training articles, you need to belong to a program that is structured either by the SICA or by the ACCA. All right, those are our two accredited professional bodies. Now, for the SICA program, and I will go into a little bit more detail in the next slide with ACCA because it's very small. I know you can't read it. So for SICA, I'll start with them. You first need to complete the accredited academic program. That is your 3-year undergrad, your 1-year postgrad, which is your CTA or your honors or your higher diploma in accounting, whatever it is you guys call it. So you do that. Then you have to join a firm. You need to complete your 3 years of articles. You need to pass your ITC as well as your APC, and you need to complete your training contract. So everything I've described now in this process means what? That you are actually in a state to be eligible to register as a CA. Okay? Once you are eligible to register as a CA, in order to register on the ADP program, we need you to be in a audit manager position. Now, remember, your articles are done already. You're probably moving into a supervisor role or an audit manager role, depending on the structures of the firm that you're in. And when we say audit manager, we mean that you need to be anything equivalent to a role that is in a reviewing capacity. And the reason that we say that, guys, is because, you know what, when you are in your training articles, it is really a phenomenal experience. And one thing I'm going to say to you guys as well, don't speak to too many trainees now before you actually get into the workforce. Don't make other people's experiences your own before you even get there, because it really is going to tarnish the experience in the way that you go through this. It's very important that you make it your own. And I'm not going to lie to you here and tell you it's all rosy and great. It is hard work. It is hard work. You're going to be sometimes maybe working late hours, but trust me, the character that it builds, the process that it builds, the professional that you come out at the end of is really non-comparable. I see CAs and RAs in every walk of life, whether it's in marketing, whether you're creating your own beauty line in business, in whatever it is, there are CAs everywhere. Why? It's because this process makes you so malleable and so adaptable. And this is why I tell trainees and students especially, make it your own. Please don't listen too much to everybody else's experiences. Training articles and audit is not as horrible as most people describe it to be. Okay, so now I went a bit off board there, but I thought it was important for me to mention that. Once you are eligible to register as a CA and you're working in an audit manager or similar role within the firm, you then register on the ADP program. That is an ADP program, the Audit Development Program, facilitated by IRBA, and we facilitate that with the firm and yourself. This is such an amazing opportunity because the program is 18 months, okay? It is not another training articles. You are working in your audit manager role. You complete a portfolio of evidence, gathering evidence of how you have achieved the competencies that align to the RA. And I promise you all of these competencies are things that you're going to be doing in your daily job as an audit manager. It's not something over and above. But the difference is that when you're in your articles, you learn to do. You learn to do auditing. When you are in management, it's a different eye that you start developing. That's when you start developing the non-technical skills, the professional skepticism, the professional judgment, and it's a completely different set of skills. Once you know how to do it, then you can develop that. And in these 18 months, we allocate a partner from your firm. You have specific mentorship from this partner while you're on the ADP program. That's hugely advantageous. At the end of the 18 months, you submit a portfolio of evidence to the IRBA. That portfolio of evidence is assessed by 3 independent panel members. Look at the amount of credibility that this applies to the individual who submits that POE. 3 different people from walks of life, whether you are in practice, out of practice, whether you and some academics on the panel as well. These 3 individuals, based on your portfolio of evidence, will find you competent or not. And they don't know who you are. It's literally just by your experience. Like, that is really mountains of credibility for me to say, well, They don't speak to each other either. It's completely an objective and independent process. Once you're found to be competent and they assess you to be competent, you are then eligible to register with the IRBA as an RA, and then you belong to our register with ongoing CPD requirements, as is with any professional environment. Okay, so that is the SICA process. You need to be registered to be a CASA, and then management position, and you move forward from there. The ACCA process is very similar. It's just that they have a different structure within the academic program. So let's just look at that in a little bit more detail. So the ACCA qualification allows you to choose from a couple of different modules, all right? Now, in order for you to follow the IRBA route, there are some mandatory modules that you need to make sure that you are choosing within your studious career path to make sure that it aligns you to allow you to be able to follow the RA path once you actually achieve the ACCA. So the compulsory modules that you must choose are the strategic business leadership modules, the strategic business reporting modules, and the advanced auditing and assurance. Then you have an option to choose between the financial management and the taxation modules, and then the gray ones, they are not particularly applicable. And then, of course, you are doing the ethics and professional modules and so forth. So what's important to note here, if you are following the ACCA route, make sure you're making the right choices to allow you the opportunity to follow through on the RA path later on if you would like to. All right, make sure you have that advanced auditing and assurance and so forth. And then once you get the ACCA, the path on the ADP is the same as SICA. So once you get your ACCA, you're done with your articles at a firm. So now you're eligible to register with the ACCA as a chartered accountant. You register with your firm on the ADP program. It's an 18-month program. POE is submitted at the end of that 18 months. It's assessed by an independent panel. And once you're found to be competent, you are then also added to our register as an RA with ongoing CPD requirements. Okay, now I just want to show you the implications of not choosing the right subjects here. If, for example, let's just say you chose business leadership, business reporting, and financial management instead of the advanced auditing, you would still be able to complete the ACCA program, and you are still called a chartered accountant at the end of the day, registered with the ACCA. It's just that if you ever decide that you want to become an RA and you want to register with the IRBA, we're going to ask you to go back and complete the advanced auditing and assurance module, the ethics and professional skills module, which is also mandatory. Everything in blue there is mandatory. So can you see the implications of not making the correct choices up front? Make wise choices earlier on in your careers so that we can make sure that you have more paths available to you later on. Okay, great. All right, so I think I did touch on this. So the differences between your training program and your actual 18 months on the ADP, we get this question a lot, which is why the slide is specifically here. Like, I mean, I can understand the frustration of thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to do 3 years of articles. Now you're telling me I must do another 18 months of this. No, it's not the same thing. This is not a training articles. This is a professional competence achievement program. You do these competencies. I promise you perform them within the audit life cycle of every audit you are engaged on as an audit manager in that role. It's just about documenting how you are particularly doing these things. All right. So, and obviously the 18 months, like I said, develops those critical skills, those non-technical skills like professional judgment and skepticism. All right. Okay, so why you should do the audit development program. Like I said to you guys, this is a specialist program. It's completed as you work. There's no additional training requirements. It's very structured. It gives you many developmental opportunities, including a specific mentorship with a partner at your particular firm. You work one-on-one with them, facilitated with the IRBA as well. It allows you to register as an RA upon your completion. You can open up your own firm. You can be a partner at particular firms. But there's one thing I just want to say to you guys here, with regards to the specialist program. The duration of this is very long, but I want to put this into context for you, okay? Let's compare this to another professional industry. Let's say the medical industry. If you become a doctor, all right, they also do 7 years, by the way, all right? It's also 4 years of intense studies. Then they're going to internship at the hospitals. Also, they do it, I think it's 2 or 3 years of that. I can't be sure. I stand to be corrected. But the point is that it's a long 7 years for them as well. When they complete that, what are they? They are GPs. They are GP doctors, which is a great designation to have. It's very astounding. It's a great achievement to have achieved. All right. Now, so if they want to become specialists, and if they want to get more advanced, then what's going to happen is that they need to study further. Then they can become orthopedic surgeons, they can become neurosurgeons, they can become gynecologists. So they have to study in addition. The ADP program is that for the auditing profession. It is what you do in addition to become specialized. You get your CASA, then you specialize to become a registered auditor. The other aspect about the little blue block there that talks about registering as an RA upon your completion or registering your own firm, I just want to mention another personal experience here. Like I mentioned in my introduction, I have both experience in and out of practice. All right. So I've worked in audit like many trainees, and I stayed in management for a couple of years to get that experience. And then I was also very curious what else is available out there for me, with this particular designation. And so I went out of practice. I worked as the financial manager for Avis Rent-A-Car for 3 years. And funnily enough, let me tell you, in that role, they required me to be a registered auditor. Who on earth would have thought that you would need this designation anywhere outside of audit? And it's because they understood the credibility that adds to your signature within their framework of documents and aspects, and also the grueling process that you had to go through in order to get that particular designation. So it holds a lot of credibility, even in other aspects and within your CVs as well. And this RA designation, of course, is the final step within your audit development process. So I hope I gave you some context into that. Then, lastly, I just want to end. If you see yourself as somebody who is committed to public interest, who's focused on professionalism, getting the balance right, you want to increase transparency, improve quality of audits, and really, you align yourself to our objective of wanting to be able to protect the public interest, of South Africa, our economy, and so forth, then this is really a career path you should be considering and you should be thinking of. Make sure you're speaking to the right people, getting the right exposure, experiencing going on VAC work, and so forth, and really feeling this for yourself, because it affords you so many opportunities within it. There's never a boring day within audit. You're always going to be learning something new all the time, and really the people, I can't say much more than that. I'm very much a people's person, and so it's the perfect profession for me, and maybe it will be for you. So I've just put this on screen very quickly. And this is just about some of the feedback that we have from candidates who've completed the ADP program, who now have the RA designation. And I'm going to just leave that there. And then just for the interest of time, before I go to the website, I think I'm going to take any questions first. And then if there's sufficient time, I can quickly take a squiz through the website with you and show you where you can find some cool things and interesting readings that may be relevant to you now in your studies and so forth. All right, so questions. You feel free to raise your hands. I'll take those. Otherwise, if there's anything burning in the chat.
Thanks, Zakira. Yeah, I think the guys can just raise their hands if there are any questions. I've really enjoyed your presentation, but I think what I've enjoyed the most is your personal stories that you've shared around your journey and the value of the RA designation to you. Yeah, and it's just reminded me of the importance of this profession and designation and what RAs and that do.
Yeah,
Not
we
that
get
it's
a
never
we
been
get a bad
important,
rep,
but
right? Jonathan, we get a bad rep. So I hope I've changed some hearts today.
yeah. No, great. Okay, Sia Tokoza, you've got your hand up. You want to ask a question?
Yes, I want to ask a question. I'm not sure if you can hear me.
I can hear you.
Oh, okay. So I was wondering, because you were saying that for someone to become a registered auditor, they should have completed a training in an audit firm and become an audit manager. So I wanted to know, for people who did their training outside audit, let's say right now I am doing my training and it is outside audit. So if someone wants to become a registered auditor later in life, how do they maneuver their way to that?
Okay, so we do have we have incorporated that into the program, Sia. So I'm guessing then you are actually specializing maybe within finance, accounting, or so forth. But you're still going towards the CA designation. Is that correct, Sia?
Yes, I'm on a psychiatry training program
All right.
in finance.
All right. So once you've completed your training articles and you achieved your CASA, in order for you to become a registered auditor, you will have to join an audit firm. Remember, these competencies are achieved within the audit framework. That would mean that you can go back to an audit firm, but because your audit elect in your training articles was not auditing, you can still register on the ADP program. But for those individuals, the ADP program is a little bit longer. So it's not 18 months for those individuals, it's 30 months. On the ADP program, but it does need to be within an audit environment. So it's not closed off to you. You just have to make the decision that if it's that important to you, you join an audit firm, you register on the ADP, you will spend 30 months obtaining your competencies needed, and then thereafter you can register as an RA once your POE is completed and submitted.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much, Sakira.
It's an absolute pleasure. I see there's one question in the chat, Jonathan. I'm just going to read that out loud and take that.
Yes,
So,
yeah, you'll probably understand it better than I, so best to read.
All right, so it says, when inspecting firms, do you inspect audit files or EQ reviews? And you is mainly held accountable. Who is mainly held accountable? The RA or the engagement team? Okay,
Yes.
so this is practically run mostly also by our inspections department. When we inspect firms, we perform two types of inspections at the IRBA. We perform what we call firm level inspections. That's looking at the overall structures, policies, and procedures, effective functioning and running of the firms. When something goes wrong there, we hold the whole firm accountable, the whole body. So, but then we also have engagement file inspections. So engagement file inspections are specific to a particular registered auditor that signed off that auditing report. And we don't necessarily look at the EQ reviews, but if a file was subject to an EQR review, then that EQR reviewer is also incorporated within that inspection. Both the engagement partner as well as the EQR partner could be held accountable for misconduct, unethical issues, or non-compliance with standards and so forth. Have I answered your question?
I think you've answered it.
Thank you. Anything else? Lebogang. Ooh, I've got a long question within the chat. But let's take the hand first, and then I'll go through that.
Oh,
Lebogang?
hi.
Hi.
Yes, hi. I just wanted to ask about I heard you talking about the SAICA and the CAs. I just want to know about if you are from a SAIPA program, if you want to follow to be a registered auditor, what do you also have to do the CA or what?
Yeah, so at the moment, Lebogang, SAIPA is not an accredited professional body that is registered with the IRBA. They're not accredited by us. If SAIPA, the actual body, applies to be accredited by the IRBA, and we find that their process aligns to the RA register, then eventually those SAIPA members will be allowed to register on the ADP. But as it stands currently, you need to belong to either SAICA or ACCA.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much.
Elizabeth?
Thank you very much for the opportunity, Zakira. Very well presentation. My question is, I'm from Namibia, and can one also register if you are a registered member with ICANN?
Yeah, so
Content of Namibia.
Yes, okay. So that's actually a very interesting question, because we have worked with some of the international African countries. So they don't register particularly within, you can't be a registered auditor for South Africa outside of South Africa. Let me just make that clear. The reason is because the IRBA's powers are only within the South African country's framework. So there is no RA signing off on audits overseas with the RASA. But some countries do have dual regulations with the regulators there, where they say, okay, if you were RA in South Africa, for example, we have this agreement with the Netherlands. If you are an RA in South Africa, then instead of doing the whole 3-year RA program in the Netherlands, Netherlands, they give you a concession where you only need to do 6 months in the Netherlands, you also become an RA there. So that's how it works with the international aspects. So if you were working to become an RA in South Africa, Elizabeth, you would have to go through that process of, actually being in South Africa, working for a firm here. I think there's specific letters and requirements that you get from our Home Affairs that says that you're operating in South Africa. I know that we worked with Zimbabwe and Botswana recently. They are, I think, adopting our ADP program for their country's RAs, but you will never be able to be an RA in another country signing off audits in a different country because each country's mandates of disciplinary power is limited to them. So at the moment, we can't offer that to you at the moment, Elizabeth.
All right, no, thank you. Just one more question, sorry. How about if you have a CPA designation, the one from the US?
No, still same thing. Same process.
All right.
So at the moment, we don't have any dual agreements with the US. We have with the Netherlands. I know we were in the process of talks with the UK, but we have not been approached by the US for some sort of dual assessment there.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Thanks, Elizabeth.
So Zakira,
Okay.
I'll
Yes.
summarize Olani's question.
Thank you.
And then see how you go about it. But basically asking there, can they, if they're employed in public sector, complete the ADP while remaining in their current role? They're saying that the situation is they've already completed articles of the AGSA, so they've done the 3 years of auditing. And they've already got designations like CISA, CDPSE, ISAP, SARJ, etc. And they'll be qualified at a CASA when they undertake the ADP. So the question is along the lines of also, would there be scope for recognition of prior learning for the ADP, or do you need to complete the ADP? So I think it's twofold. Can you do the ADP when you are not in an audit environment, but you have completed your audit time? And then the other one is there any recognition of prior learning for the ADP?
Okay. So the AGSA, we have many candidates on the ADP program that are from the AGSA. However, they are also on the ADP while they are at the AGSA. Okay. So one of the requirements of completing the ADP is that you have to be within an audit space. We do regard public audit sectors as being within the audit space. Okay. So from the AGSA aspect, if you got your CA there, you are eligible to register on the ADP. With regards to come to recognition of prior learning, we offer recognition of prior learning for up to 12 months remission of the program. So what this means is, let me give you an example. The ADP program is 18 months long. If you were working as a manager, let's say at the AGSA, post articles for, I don't know, 3 years, 2 years, or whatever it is, we will give you a maximum of 18 months off the program. That 6 months that you still need to perform on the program still has to be within the ambit of an audit space, getting that competencies. There are specialized circumstances where you can apply to the IRBA, to the ADP manager, and to justify that you want a full remission of the program. But that happens in very rare and specific cases, but we do have a recognition of prior learning aspect. So it's either that you're going to be able to apply for the full 18 months and he may or may not allow you that. If he doesn't allow you that, you will be able to get 12 months remission of the program. If you were an audit manager in that role, remember, we can't give you recognition for articles because that's not the same competence achievement. You have to be working post articles at the AGSA to get the RPL portion. And then you might be requested to just do another 6 months with a firm. So in cases like this, where we have individuals that are maybe already out in practice that maybe have just 6 months to do this with, what there happens is that we say, okay, you can carry on working for where you are, but our requirement still stands. You need to complete the 6 months in an audit space. So we have candidates at the moment that have agreements with other audit firms or smaller audit firms or partners where they say, okay, in this 6 months, you can then, I'll bring you on as a side partner. You will review these programs, get the competencies you need and sign off. So the actual ORA of that firm that you have an agreement with is what's getting you through the program, not necessarily where you actually employed. So we do take into account these specific circumstances, but yeah, there's a bit of T's and C's attached to it.
Yeah, so I think also what's coming through is it's not necessarily black and white in terms of you have to do the entire ADP. And yeah, you need to take into account the specific circumstances. But I think you've given great guidelines there for students or those wanting to follow that path to think through. Zolani, if you still have another question, post it in the chat or raise your hand if we maybe didn't address an aspect of your question. Otherwise, Sabu has asked a question in the chat.
I will leave an email address in the chat actually here for you guys. And if there's any specific questions that maybe we didn't get time to address today, feel free to pop us an email and we will definitely respond back to you. Okay, and there's another question though I'll just take here. So this is from Sibusire. AD, can you speak more about your experience outside of public practice, whether you believe that having the RA designation makes a candidate stand out? Are there any additional career opportunities for people with the RA designation beyond becoming a partner of the auditing firm? Okay, look, I mentioned that to you because I wanted you to understand that the RA designation is actually something that is held in high regard. If this is on your CV, it is going to make yourself and your CV more credible, gives you more options from that aspect. There are a lot of individuals that hold board of director roles in exec and non-exec roles that still hold the aspect of an RA because it gives you that credibility. I can't say that it's going to open more opportunities for you. The RA is a specific audit path role, but I thought I might make mention of the fact that I was actually required in this commercial role. If I didn't have the RA designation, I would not have been considered for actually obtaining that FM role at ABIS. It was a hard requirement. It might not exist at every commercial entity out there, but it definitely was something that stood out to me. So that's what I can give you from that aspect, Sipasiwe. What I also advise my students is that if you're in your traineeship, right? And let's just say, I know many people out there, a lot of recruiters, firms, companies, some of them don't see your articles as actual work experience. So many individuals stay in the audit firm, post articles, and they get a little bit more exposure. Now, what I always say to all of them is that please, if you are going to stay at a firm for at least 18 months after your articles, just get on the program. Register on the ADP program. Get your RA while you are there. That way, whether you actually use it to be in audit later or not, at least you still have it, and it opens up those opportunities for you to move fluidly between positions, commercially, in practice and out of practice. And that's why I'm saying this is about making wise decisions up front, because I can't tell you how many times I've been in and out, but something always draws me back to IRBA. And here I am now, that the regulator of audit, you know what I'm saying? So you never know what it's going to be. So just plan accordingly for that. I hope I've given you some context, Sipasiwe. Okay. Lebogang, you don't have psycho training programs. I don't understand the context of that. Maybe you want to unmute yourself, yeah?
Yeah, Lebogang, maybe if you want to ask a question. Maybe there we go.
Yes,
Great.
I was just asking if you don't have the program, psycho programs, like to be training accountants at your company.
No,
So
no, we won't.
the 3 years of articles, like a training contract.
No, because we don't have that. Remember, I said the IRBA actually has oversight over all of the training programs and academic programs. So that would be a bit of a conflict of interest, because we are the ones that actually sign off your training program after SAICA does. All the training contracts come from SAICA and ACCA to the IRBA. We do the final stamp on your training articles and so forth. So we are not a training environment, but there are opportunities for employment once you are qualified and so forth, Lebogang.
Thank you.
Right. Any other questions?
No other questions that I see, Zakira. I'm looking for. Sabu's got a hand up, but I am looking forward to seeing your website after this question, maybe.
I was going to ask, yeah, if I have some time, I'll definitely take you through that quickly.
Go, Sabu.
Hi, thank you. Sorry, I just wanted to ask, right? So regarding the RA path, essentially. So I did speak to the company that I signed with for the VAC work program, and they kind of spoke on it briefly, but I'm just trying to understand generally. So is it essentially one of those things where if you are in audit and you do plan on staying in audit, it's essentially not an onerous thing to take on in addition to the work that you're already doing post articles, essentially? So would it be, I don't know, I don't know how to explain it, because you did mention it, and you did emphasize that it's not a training program.
No, it's
so
not.
Is it not an onerous thing like at all?
It's not. The onerous aspect of it is you having to document how you achieve your competencies. And it's going to only be as onerous as you allow this to be. Like in your psycho training articles, you're actually also creating a portfolio of evidence. If you leave that portfolio of evidence to be documented all at once in December for the whole year, you're going to find that very onerous. But if you achieve a competency within the audit lifecycle, then, and you document that in your portfolio of evidence as you achieve it, you only need to achieve it or prove it once, and you move on, then you're done. So that's what it's about. You need to, there's a set of competencies in the portfolio of evidence. We ask you, how did you do this? How did you do this? How did you do this? You're going to tell us, in client this, I did it like this. That's what you're going to document. Obviously, I'm giving it to you in a very high level right now. When you get to that point, we do train you specifically into the detail and what's required, but it's nothing that you're not going to be performed. I guarantee you that the competency that you need to achieve on the ADP, they are aligned with the role of somebody who is in a reviewing position, in management position within audit. Okay.
So it's essentially like diarizing how your day went, essentially. That's the
I like the way you said that, but yeah, essentially, it's not very different from what your psycho documentation looks like. It's a portfolio of evidence. You're gathering evidence to prove to us that you're competent.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you
for this presentation.
Jonathan, do I have 5 minutes to quickly go through the website? Okay, just give me 1 second.
But exactly 5 minutes. Go for it.
Righty. Let's go here. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Can you see my screen? Can you see it, Jonathan? If you could just give me anyone.
Yes.
All right.
Yes, we can.
Okay. Fantastic. All right, so this is the IRBA website. It's www.irba.co.za. This is going to bring you to our lovely homepage. FYI, we also just actually revamping our website. That'll be released probably in a couple of months, but the content should be fairly similar, the same, right? So on our homepage, this is where you're going to find everything that's relevant and happening within the IRBA right now. Okay, so some key things is that obviously we have our menu bar here at the top. If you scroll down on the homepage, you're going to find out about what are the latest publications. So you can see that the latest Urban News issue 70 was now available. This is a really cool document to read. It tells you all about what's happening in each of our departments. What did we do in the last quarter? It's released on a quarterly basis. Then we have our guidance for registered auditors. And, you know, again, I'm going to say to you guys, this whole website is designed, and we'll keep speaking to registered auditors, but it's relevant to what you are studying. Everything in here is what you are probably tested on, all the changes and so forth. So please go and read and make this practical for yourself. And now, you know, your APC examination is a competence-based examination. It wants to understand that you know and are keeping up with what's happening now. And you're going to find all of that here. So the latest news within IRBA is going to be at the bottom, and also all of the latest guidances. So what new webinars are issued, what new standards are issued, latest publications. So this is our homepage in general. I want you guys to particularly look at the Become an RA tab. If you go to the Become an RA tab, this is everything related to the Education and Transformation Department, and specifically relating to the ADP presentation that I gave you guys today. So here you're going to find information about what is an RA, what is the ADP. Go here and learn a little bit about the ADP. I'm specifically going to go down to our ADP digital learning content. Guys, please, in your spare time, I know you're all looking for engaging material to look into. We've designed, watch these 2 videos. The first video is very basic about what is IRBA, who is the IRBA, what is it we do. It's a very short animated video. The second one, why you should join the ADP, gives you some nice insight. It's a marketing video for the ADP. And then if you want to just recap or learn a little bit more or remember what I spoke to you about today, you can watch e-learning 1 and 2. Don't watch e-learning 3. It's too technical. That's more for when you are actually registered on the program. So e-learning 1 and 2, it's at your disposal. Please go and take a look at it. All right. If you want to learn more about the ADP. Here, you can navigate through it. It tells you everything ADP related. If you wanted to even take a quiz at what our the portfolio of evidence look like, this is the ADP reloaded. You're going to find that here's all the PDFs and the documents that we expect you to submit under the portfolio of evidence. We have moved, this is our actually, the reloaded is we've moved now to an LMS, an online system, but it's practically all of this within an online system. It's launched now in April. But like I said, all of that information will come up with our new website, but everything ADP related is exactly here. Okay, so please take a look at this, become an RA, and go through the ADP aspects, and it will cover the majority of what I took you through the presentation. Then I also wanted to show you at the top in our banner, the guidance for RAs. Here we have our disciplinary processes. You can look at the APA Act. This is the most recent one. Also, I'm not sure if you guys are aware that our disciplinary processes, our legal matters, they are actually open to the public. And when there is one happening, if you scroll down on our homepage, it'll probably be registered here somewhere under the latest news. So you'll see the date, you'll see who the disciplinary is with. You can come to the IRBA and you can watch those proceedings. It is very interesting. Bring popcorn. No, popcorn is loud. But it's a very interesting aspect. If you ever have an opportunity or some time and there's something happening, you're welcome to join us at the IRBA for that. So guidance for RAs. Then we have some technical guidance, again, speaking to RAs, but all of the stuff relevant to audit in where you are at the moment. And here, Education and Transformation Department, a little bit about our CPD policies and so forth. Here is the IRBA Code of Conduct that I was speaking to you about. That's recent. And I think that's the major stuff. If you're looking for an auditor, you go to our registry, you can search for us by name. The news and events, or anything new in particular happening within IRBA, you can search for that here as well. It's all staged onto our website from that aspect. So in the interest of time, I know you guys have people waiting, so I'm not going to, I think I've covered the gist of it. Thank you so much for the opportunity. It was an absolute pleasure to engage with you guys today. And trust me, it will not be the last. We're probably going to see you again year on year, and if not later on in your career paths as you progress, trainees, and within the firms as well. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Thank you to you, Zakira, and to Medea. It's wonderful having you with us.